Welcome to another of my dissertations of Axel's characters. By the way, these ones feel a little bit choppy because they are pretty much unscripted. It's just me rambling about my inner thoughts. So this one, it's always been one that I was wondering, what in the freaking hell Florence Nightingale had to deal with the freaking entire story, because in a world where pretty much everyone is a fairy tale, why it's important to include Florence Nightingale in the story? And hear me out, because everything turns back to Alice. So, for people that don't know who Florence Nightingale, the real person, was, she was a nurse during the late 19th century that also helped to modernize her nursing, was applied in medicine. And also, she was known as the lady with the lamp. That's why in the game, she chases you around in a very tall form with a lamp, because she was known to go around nights looking after the soldier that she was taking care of. Because of that, she was become very famous. I mean, she's here in Black Souls, she's represented also in Fake Grand Order, and she changed everything in modern nursing. The relation with Alice comes from that Alice served as a Red Cross nurse during World War I. She even got a medal for that. Even though Nightingale didn't even met Alice personally, by the point that Alice started being a nurse, was around maybe 60, and Florence by then was like long gone. The other thing that also is curious about Nightingale is the freaking detail to the outfit. They actually resemble the real life Florence Nightingale. Even the headdress. Toro has done a great job interpreting the outfit for Nightingale, even though the kind of Iron Cross here, which is black because you know that the Red Cross patented copyright and they have been enforcing for people to not misuse it. Even though Florence, she never made it to become a member of the Red Cross. Now that we have established the connection between Alice and Florence Nightingale, because they were both nurses, so what connects Florence to the story is like there is numerous hints that she's sick. Like something is affecting Florence's body. And that's pointed out by the Dr. Blackwell when addressing Florence in a letter and other multiple references to Florence in the game. We can tell by whenever you do the boss fight with her, she just becomes a monstrous bird. And that is actually really interesting how Otto used his imagination to blend Nightingale in the story almost perfectly. Like, she always felt a little bit off, but it's always cool to see. I don't know why it went with a more furry wolf type features, because that's the only reference I kind of not get it. Maybe because wolves are really good at smelling blood. But well, to keep it on track, there is a story written by Hans Christian Andersen called The Nightingale. It's one of the most interesting parts, because probably Nightingale was in her early 20s when the story was written and published. The story is about this nightingale, which for people that they don't know, a nightingale is a bird. So there was this emperor from China that he got a gift from the Emperor of Japan, a singing bird that was a nightingale. The Emperor appreciated the singing of the bird, and one day the Emperor of Japan sent another bird, this time a mechanical one. The nightingale, he felt jealous of the mechanical bird, it fled away and never returned. The Emperor didn't mind. The mechanical bird kept singing until it broke down. And one day the Emperor felt sick, and when he was on his deathbed, he was like, oh man, I really want to hear the nightingale again. Then the Emperor suddenly started hearing the nightingale again. The song was so powerful and so captivating that persuaded Death was waiting for the passing of the Emperor to collect his soul to not go after the Emperor. And the Emperor recovered from his sickness. The nightingale kept singing for the Emperor until the end of the days of the Emperor. So there is the correlation over there between Florence Nightingale and the nightingale from the story. That's why you can find the book of the nightingale in her office with a golden kind of yell, and that's why she mentions things like, do not get rid of me, I can keep singing. So what I was thinking, probably Nightingale, the sickness that it had was that forgetting about her own story and becoming human, becoming Florence Nightingale, the real Nightingale, because both of them, they were healers. Both of them, they stood nights with their respective patients. The Nightingale had the Emperor, and Nightingale went around with the lamp. I think it's a really interesting way to link both of them. Especially as well, the way that you get delivered into the world as well, because the prominences of babies and all of that, like, I think by this point, it could be a reference to that Florence Nightingale was in charge of taking care of the delivery of the babies, of the old ones. So that could be another kind of hidden reference as well. Because if we see in the image, it seems like the babies, they kind of have a very deformed thingy. So that might be another link of her to the story. In fact, when I was editing this, I actually investigated a little bit more. And after the war, when she moved to London, she started to use her funds to establish an academy for midwives. So that could be another link to the entire story and her presence in Wonderland, because they needed her to become the midwife for every single old one. And that's why her tale got distorted into the real life Florence Nightingale story, who did most probably know with the powers of life, because though initially she was a doctor in friggin' Lagwich Town, when she got moved to Wintervale, she established her clinic there and her help out to note to deliver all your daughters. As we know and as we see in the story, Wintervale is being used as a nursery for your spawn with the old ones. In specifically, note, in the end, this is why she is on the story. She belongs in Black Souls, even though she might be one of the characters that might probably stand out the most. An interesting reference to Hans Christian Andersen and to Florence Nightingale, because I feel sometimes that we sideline a lot the importance of Hans Christian Andersen in the story of Black Souls, because he has not played a major role until probably some sections of DLC 3, where he gets a very big murder boner against his characters. And I think that's why the other reason you are not allowed to spare Florence. And you only got two options unless you find the letter with the Blackwell. And I need to do an achievement about that, actually. So, what do you think about the inclusion of Florence Nightingale in the story? Do you think it fits? Do you think that my connections with the story and Nightingale are correct? Do you have your own opinion on Florence Nightingale? Which character do you think it belongs in the story of Black Souls? Or if you have any weird theories or anything, you know where to go. I'm done. Thanks for listening me to yap about this. Have a nice one, people, and take care. Bye!